Hello YouTube, my name is Nero. Today we have some Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. The Sabotage DLC is finally out. Well, it's actually been out for a month if you play on the PlayStation, but if you play on the Xbox One or the PC, the DLC has just now released and you can actually play it on your platform of choice. What I thought I would do for this video is give you guys a bit of a review of the multiplayer maps of the new Sabotage DLC, because it's something that I've actually been playing a lot of this afternoon. I definitely have a lot to say when it comes to these 4 maps, and I figured it would be interesting to hear my opinion for those of you guys that have been following my channel for a very long time. If you're brand new to my YouTube channel, well then hello, my name is Nero and I'm glad to have you. Let's start things off here with the 4 multiplayer maps, so we're going to talk about the rest of the DLC pretty much as a whole. So the 4 maps we got for this DLC are going to be Dominion, Neon, Noir, as was Renaissance. Now of course we're going to start things off here with Dominion, because this is the map that everybody's been talking about. It is the remake of the Modern Warfare 2 map Afghan, which is one of my favorite maps of all time. I think it's important to say right from the get that Dominion is not a completely faithful remake to Afghan from Modern Warfare 2, although the 2 maps are very similar. A good example of a faithful remake, in my opinion, would be the High Rise remake that we saw back in Advanced Warfare. Pretty much everything about that was exactly spot on. Everything was in the exact same location, down to the smallest detail. That is not exactly the case here on Dominion. There are barriers where there wasn't previously. There are parts of the sidewalk on the cliffs that are missing. There are lots of bushes and secret spots from Afghan that have either been barriered off or have been completely removed. That being said, Dominion is still a good map because it retains the core values of what made Afghan fun to play in the first place. It has very long lines of sight, which is actually something I think Infinite Warfare definitely needs. It's a very wide open, long line of sight style of a map. It also has that same triangular pattern that we know from Afghan that actually plays very well in the context of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and again, adds a lot of variety to the game because not a lot of maps are made with this design philosophy in mind anymore. Kill streaks are incredibly powerful on this map because of how open it is. There are only a couple of places you can actually take cover on this map. There's a couple of bunkers. You can, of course, duck inside the big airplane in the middle, and, of course, you can take cover in the cave. But aside from that, kill streaks are very, very powerful on this map, and overall, if you enjoyed Afghan in Modern Warfare 2, then you're going to enjoy Dominion here in Infinite Warfare. But keep in mind, if you did not enjoy Afghan in Modern Warfare 2, chances are you are not going to enjoy this map here in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. All in all, I would say it's a welcome addition to the game because, as I mentioned, it provides some old school map design and some very long lines of sight into a game that otherwise has a focus on extremely small and condensed maps. The next map we're going to be taking a look at is going to be called Noir. Now, what's actually interesting is I just mentioned that here in Infinite Warfare, they seem to have a focus on small condensed maps, and Noir is going to be no different. It's actually a futuristic look at Brooklyn, New York, and I personally love what they have done with this map. It's a small 3-lane map that is just covered in neon lights at absolutely every turn. I will say that the center of the map is sort of a no man's land. Now, while the lines of sight are generally small, there are lots of them in the very middle of the map. So when you're there, you are actually exposed to a lot of different line of sights that you maybe don't even know exist. So I found the best way to counter this is to try to minimize the amount of time you spend in the middle of the map, though keep in mind that cutting through the middle of the map is also the fastest way to get to absolutely anywhere, so trying to avoid it completely isn't exactly recommended either. There needs to be a balance there. All in all, I actually really enjoy playing on this map. Now, they can do small maps very well, and they can do them very poorly, and I feel as though Noir is an example of taking a very small and fast-paced map and doing it actually very well. It's very predictable, and I think it comes down to the fact it's a 3-lane style map as compared to some of the stuff that we saw maybe back in Ghost in Modern Warfare 3, where it was just kind of people going everywhere all the time with no real semblance of control. It is very clearly a 3-lane style map. You always have an idea where the opposing team is going to be coming from, and might I say it again, this has one of the coolest aesthetics that we've seen in Call of Duty in a very long time. If you remember Plaza from Black Ops 2, it was kind of well known for being this map that has neon lights, and it's kind of like a nightclub, and it just had this really cool aesthetic. They took that idea and they turned it up to 12 here in Noir, in my opinion, although I will say the music isn't nearly as good. The next map is going to be called Neon. Now, what's actually interesting about Neon is there's not nearly as much actual neon on this map as compared to Noir. It's actually a large virtual city that is partially glitched out. Now, this is, of course, very evident if you go towards the middle of the map. If you fall down, you will die in there. And when you die, your body sort of disappears on this map, which is very off-putting at first. As somebody who isn't all that used to playing a lot of Infinite Warfare, as you guys know, I focus heavily on Modern Warfare Remastered, and I'm just now starting to play Infinite Warfare almost 4 months into the game's life cycle. The first few kills I got on this map were pretty off-putting because I felt as though they were using some sort of a combat rig ability I wasn't aware of, but of course you get used to it pretty quickly, watching people pretty much just disappear as soon as you shoot them. Another interesting tidbit with this map is that since we're in a virtual city, the cars are also virtual, so you can blow them up, but eventually they are just going to reappear, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. All in all, I feel as though this map is pretty fun to play. It's the second biggest map of the DLC, with of course Dominion being the first. It's based off a Modern Warfare 2 map, of course it's going to be the biggest. So this is the second biggest one of the DLC, and it offers some very interesting lines of sight. It also offers a very interesting way to play as compared to what you typically see in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Lots of long-range gunfights, but of course you can navigate the map in such a way that you can minimize the amount of time you spend in these long-range gunfights, so you can try to take the fight as close to your opponent as humanly possible. It's absolutely beautiful. It's very clean. There are lots of bright colors and extreme use of the color white, in fact, and a lot of the interior buildings are just very nice to look at. And overall, I keep going back to it. From an aesthetic standpoint, I really do enjoy this DLC. I will say that of all the maps, I think Neon is my least favorite one, but that's not to say it's a bad map. Typically, when I do these review videos of DLCs, I'll say, well, this is my least favorite map, and this is why it was bad. The map itself isn't necessarily terrible. I just don't feel as though it has the same great flow that we see in some of the other maps, and of course, we're talking about that going forward. The fourth and final map of this DLC, of course, is going to be Renaissance, and it, of course, is set in Venice, Italy. This map reminds me a lot of Modern Warfare 3 for one reason or another. I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe it's the way it's designed, maybe it's the aesthetic, maybe it's just the colors and the palette that they actually decided to use for this map. I can't quite put my finger on it, but when I play on this map, I get vibes of Modern Warfare 3 for one reason or another. This map is a perfect example of great map flow. It's one of the best examples of great map flow that I've seen in a very long time. The map is so incredibly predictable at all times. I'm a huge fan of that. I've talked about that a lot of times. I mean, one of my gripes with Infinite Warfare is just how inherently unpredictable and chaotic the game can be because of the game's movement and level design, right? Renaissance is completely different, right? They seem to have scrapped that entire idea. That argument has to be thrown out the window for this map because it is so incredibly predictable all the time where your opponent is going to be coming from. And honestly, it reminds me a lot of old school Call of Duty map design, the same kind of map design that I've become familiar with playing so much Modern Warfare Remastered over the past couple of months. This is definitely my favorite map of the DLC. I wish I could give you guys more examples as to why this map is so ridiculously fun to play. I think part of it is, one, I've always done well on this map. I've never had a bad game on this map. Two, I always have an idea where my opponent is going to be, and that's one of those things that you kind of pick up on as you actually play. Like, I can't just say, like, you know, here's an example of me always knowing where the opponent is. You can just tell by watching the gameplay. I'm never really dumbfounded as to where the opposing team is going to be coming from. Sound design on this map is fantastic. You can always hear footsteps. You can always tell from the UAV, and just the way the map is designed, if they're spawning at the C-Flag, you know exactly where they could come at you from. It's one of those great maps where spawns don't flip a whole lot, and I really feel as though they spent a lot of time really working on the lines of sight and really working on the spawn system to make sure this map is as predictable as humanly possible. I really do enjoy playing on Renaissance here. It's definitely a lot of fun. And ladies and gentlemen, that is all but going to conclude my review of the 4 maps of the Sabotage DLC. Now, ultimately, people ask me this question: Nero, is it worth it? Is it worth the money to buy this DLC? And to answer that, I'm gonna have to say, has Call of Duty DLC ever actually been worth it, right? Because for $15, you get 4 multiplayer maps. And the thing is, how often do you really play those 4 multiplayer maps? Now, for me personally, I've pretty much played the DLC playlist all afternoon. But that's just the thing. If you want to play these maps, at least on the Xbox and the PC for the first month, they're going to be basically set in these playlists. That's the only place you can really play them consistently. And so as a result, if you do decide to buy these maps, know that you're pretty much going to have to play a mosh pit or a team deathmatch style playlist that is only on these 4 maps, and if you want to play other maps, you have to basically hop into a different playlist entirely, so just keep that in mind. I think a lot of people over the years will tell you that $15 for 4 maps is not exactly a very good deal, but keep in mind, we do have zombies in here as well. Apparently, the zombies experience is pretty good. That's why I've been hearing, again, go to a zombies YouTuber if you want to review the, what's it called, Rave in the Woods, Night in the Woods, something like that, the zombies map. I haven't even played it yet. It looks interesting. I love the fact that Kevin Smith is in there. I definitely want to play Silent Bob. It sounds like a lot of fun to me. Apparently, you unlock him via challenge, I've heard. I really have no idea. But keep in mind, it does come with that as well. But ultimately, it's going to come down to you and your situation and how much time you plan to devote to the game. This is why I've always told people, if you're looking at buying a piece of downloadable content and you're not sure if it's actually going to be worth it, regardless of how good or bad it may be, if you are going to dedicate the time to it, it's typically going to be worth it. If you plan to play these maps quite a bit, then $15, if you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, is not all that much money as compared to other things you could do for $15. For example, if you want to go to the movies, $15 is going to get you 2 hours of entertainment. Are you going to get more than 2 hours of entertainment from these maps? Chances are you probably will. So that's one thing to actually consider. It's also worth mentioning that you can buy the season pass. When it comes to DLC, you can always buy the season pass. It's going to be $50. And so what that means is if you plan to buy all 4 DLC, right, it's going to run you $60 if you buy them individually. If you buy the season pass, it's going to cost you $50. So in the long run, it will save you $10. It will also give you instant access to the RVN assault rifle, which just came out, and in my opinion, is very meh. I'm not going to say it's the best assault rifle ever. I only have the... Actually, no, that's a lie. I think I have a common variant of it as well. Either way, it's a very meh assault rifle. It's kind of interesting. It's a 2-round burst that basically is an auto burst, so it's pretty much full auto, but it fires in small 2-round bursts. It can also be pulled apart into a melee weapon. It's an interesting gun, which you do get instant access to it if you have the season pass. You don't have to do the challenges to unlock it, so that's something to bear in mind. You also get 10 rare supply drops. You also get 1,000 salvage credits, but the season pass, ultimately, going back to what I said, is only worth it if you plan to play the DLC. Don't just buy the season pass if you don't plan to play the DLC. Otherwise, you're wasting an absurd amount of money on a couple of hours of game time, right? If you only plan to play the DLC a very small amount and you spent $50 on it, that's a giant waste of money, so I would definitely not recommend that to anybody. Overall, if you have been playing Infinite Warfare and if you're enjoying the game, right? If you're somebody that doesn't really play a whole lot and basically focuses on other games like Modern Warfare Remastered, chances are this DLC is not for you, and I would not recommend buying it. If you do enjoy playing Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and you want to continue playing and add some variety to the game by adding new maps and new experiences, then the DLC is probably going to be worth $15 to you. Those are just my opinions, but of course, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that down there in the comment section below. Overall, I've really been enjoying my time playing Call of Duty Infinite Warfare today, and I think I'm going to enjoy playing it pretty much the rest of the weekend. They have really given us a lot of incentive to play, because if you guys don't know, right now on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, we have double XP, double weapon XP. That's going to be running until Monday, March 6th. We, of course, now have brand new maps. If you decide to buy the DLC on all platforms, it's available on the Xbox, the PlayStation, as well as the PC now. We have 2 brand new guns that were just added to the game that you can unlock just by completing challenges. You can get them from supply drops, sure, but you can also just complete challenges and get access to both of these new weapons, which is pretty freaking awesome. And say what you want about Infinite Warfare, but at least they're updating their game and doing new things and having stuff actually happen within their game. I will say that over the past month or so, Modern Warfare Remastered has become a little stagnant. Would you guys not agree with that? I mean, they have added a couple of new weapons, but those weapons are locked behind supply drops. You can, of course, craft them with your parts, but you have to play a lot, and I mean a freaking ton, to unlock all the parts to actually be able to put together some of these brand new weapons. And so it's either like grind out a bunch and hopefully get lucky from supply drops, or you can just hop on Infinite Warfare to complete a challenge, unlock a couple of new weapons, play on new maps, enjoy double XP, enjoy double weapon XP. There's a lot going on in this game right now, which is why, of course, I made a couple more videos of it over the past week or so, whereas I barely made any over the entire game's life cycle. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I hope you guys all enjoyed my review of the 4 multiplayer maps of the Sabotage DLC here in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I would love to hear down there in the comments what are your thoughts on the DLC maps as a whole. Are you enjoying zombies? I may give it a shot, but I have a feeling I'm going to be lost. But maybe that's half the fun is being lost. I really have no idea. But overall, I really do feel as though these maps are fun. And just from a disclosure perspective, like, I'm not somebody who always loves DLC maps, right? I think if you've watched any of my DLC reviews in the past, like, I flat out made, I think, a couple of DLC videos saying, do not buy this DLC, it's absolutely terrible, you know? I don't feel as though that's the case here with Sabotage. I really do think all 4 maps are very good within the context of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Maybe they wouldn't be great in other games, but within Infinite Warfare, they are very fun to play. I really do enjoy them. They take away a lot of the chaos that you typically see on a lot of the standard Infinite Warfare maps. They're a lot more controlled. They're a throwback to classic map design in a lot of ways, while still working within the context of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and its movement system. That's all I have to say on that. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section below, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.